Us Weekly is running a cover story that says Ivanka Trump, it's called How Ivanka Trump Influences Her Father, Donald Trump. And the original article itself cites a bunch of different situations in which Ivanka is the calming force in the White House, and she has some effect on what her father finally ends up saying. And there are quotes like, "Where I disagree with my father, he knows it. I express myself with total candor. I go to the mat on certain issues and I may still lose those," she told the New York Times. But maybe along the way, I've modified a position just slightly, and that's just great. Well, Twitter decided that they were gonna take their opinions on this out into the public sphere with tweets like someone tweeting, "Why I disagree with my dad," and then showing the cover of Oedipus Rex. As well as "Why I disagree with my dad. He says NYPD Blue was better than The Practice. I disagree." To kind of point out that what kind of issues is she disagreeing on?
Or what impact is she making too?
Yeah, this is the plot of The Little Mermaid, as well as a lot of like GIFs.
My favorite was one that said "Why I disagree with my father," and then it was just a still shot of Vanessa Williams when she was in Get Out, her character from Get Out, which that doesn't make sense to you. Go watch the movie. I don't want to spoil it.
What's her name?
Is it Michelle Williams?
Vanessa Williams is black.
What is it?
Vanessa Williams is Miss America.
Yeah.
Allison Williams.
And there's two Vanessa Williams and they're both black.
Way to go.
Allison Williams.
That's what he just was mouthing for like the last minute.
It's like,
but hey, if we can be real, if there's a Get Out sequel, Vanessa Williams should be in it.
Yeah, it'll be like way down the line, and she's their kid grown up.
This interview was from not actually from Ivanka herself, but from an insider that says that they have privy to information that's going on with the Trump administration. People are more pissed at Ivanka because she's so silent. You know, she is one of those women like Beyonce that doesn't say anything in the midst of drama. When Nordstrom was dropping her line, Ivanka never gave a statement. She's just she gives you these little like tidbits and little morsels of, here's a glimpse into my life, and then takes it away. She's not very public and she's not very open. So I think that people are attacking her and always saying that she's complicit, but we don't know that.
Yeah.
We don't know what goes on behind closed doors. And also there is this huge familial element that is clearly prevalent here, and the fact that that's her father, you know? So, I mean, I put myself in her shoes and think, okay, what if my dad was a president? Because to be thrust into that position really without, not to say without your wanting to, but you're guilty by association, it's gotta suck for her, you know? It's really gotta suck for her.
That's what it is. I think it's everybody weighing a bunch of really reasonable instincts.
Yeah.
Like when I hear that, I'm like, oh my God, if my dad was Donald Trump, that would suck. But then again, if my dad was Donald Trump, I would have grown up with this. And a lot of the stuff that takes folks by surprise wouldn't take me by surprise. And maybe, you know, when people are in a relationship you don't like, you're like, what do they see in each other? Like, how do they get along behind closed doors? And the answer could be, fine, they get along fine.
It's hard not for me to imagine their dynamic now is really very similar to the dynamic that they showcased on the show The Apprentice. Now I know that was a while ago, but still, he would bring her on the show. So Donald was always kind of crazy and he would make these decisions and say some things that were like kind of oddballish, and then he would bring in Ivanka for a challenge to coach some of the teams, and she would only pop in for maybe 5 or 10 minutes, but I always remember when I would watch it being like, oh, she's so composed and smart and she's great, and then she'd be gone. So she never really said enough for me to understand her perspective or much about her personality, only that she was very different from Donald, who would just sort of say whatever came to his mind. And I think that in what she's doing now is very similar to that, because in her silence, she's hoping to protect her image, and by only sources coming forward and her not really giving out statements because of Nordstrom and that whole thing, she's hoping that she will still retain this pristine composure. But actually, it's not a TV show anymore. This is politics. You need to take a stand for what's right, and it's not enough for us to just sort of assume like, well, she seems cool, so she probably thinks this. No, we're projecting onto her. She has to speak up for herself, and she's too afraid to do that because I think she's honestly like kind of a little bit of a bitch and doesn't actually stand up to her dad that much. And if she is, she's not making that much of an impact, because where is the change?
It really does. Like, it makes me think of like Game of Thrones and the different Lannisters that they have. And she is not any one of those in the show, but in the idea that each of the kids adopts a different part of their father's philosophy, essentially, and that happens a lot with
each of the Trumps, or you mean in Game of Thrones?
I feel like each of the Game of Thrones kids does, and because Tyrion's the smart one who does strategy,
clever,
and then the one who upholds, what he thinks is honor is another, and then the one who's like ruthless is Cersei. So that's all the different parts of Tywin. For those of you who don't watch Game of Thrones, it seems like the part of Donald Trump that Ivanka has taken on is that part that doesn't correct people when they're wrong, and it serves her. Well, so she just like lets it pretend. If the impression is out there that she's this great daughter and she says the right thing, she will reinforce that because that's a positive attribute for the general public to behold, and she doesn't change it.
Or maybe she just doesn't give a shit. Like legitimately, maybe
she does.
I know, but she also is a mother and a wife, and she is 36 years old. She has her own life. I'm sure that she wants to facilitate. And you make a great point about her image, because in a lot of the articles I've read about Ivanka, it's always to protect this image, and she has never ever in the years I've been watching her, even when she was younger, like on the cover of Teen People and in 17 magazine, in her articles, she never ever gives off the vibe or the attitude that she is outspoken or flippant or even an extrovert. She's always just very poised and collected.
Right, because if she doesn't
the same way,
if she doesn't make
she says everything the exact same way with a measured confidence.
And there's always a downbeat.
Yeah, and if she doesn't take a stand on anything, then we can't hold her accountable for anything. So I think that the more vague and ambiguous and amorphous her political opinions and leanings are, the better for her, because it does serve her image. Then people from either side can be like, well, she's a woman, so she might be a feminist, or she probably doesn't buy into that whole feminism thing. You can project whatever. It's totally intentional, but it is frustrating for a lot of us. And this article was ridiculous.
Right. Well, and then honorable mention for Tiffany Trump. I mean, she's probably like, I'm not really a Trump, so I'm just gonna kick back and watch this shit show happen.
Right. If Ivanka selectively lays low, then Tiffany lays way lower. Way lower.
I feel bad because I think that she wants to be. I think she wants to be laying higher, and she just can't get to that top bunk bed. I think Ivanka has like a stake on that bunk bed.
I think she's gonna look back and be like, I think I did that right. I think I really did a good job.
Kind of like her music career never taking off. She's probably for the best. Probably for the best.